Welcome to my shop. My name is Guy, and today I'd like to talk to you about the excellent Benchcrafted Hi Vise Hardware. Now, we all know the workbench is one of the most important tools in your shop, but even when that work surface of your bench is at an optimal height for your planing, sanding, and assembly chores, it's often too low for long-term comfort and efficiency when performing detailed close-up work. Now, the Benchcrafted Hi Vise Hardware is a solution that lets you build your own work holding vise that clamps to your existing workbench, and the Hi Vise elevates your work to a more ergonomic height. And with your work closer to your chest height, you can apply more power while allowing you to work with greater control. It's great for carving tasks, cutting, pairing dovetails, or any detailed work where raising and holding the material to a few inches of your bench top just makes the work go easier. Now, there's a version that has a screw clamp feature for fast clamping your workbench, like what you see here. And there's another version that lets you use your own clamps or hold fast for securing your bench, or to build the wooden components with a tail vise cleat for being clamped into your workbench with your existing Benchcrafted end vise. Let me show you how easy it is to install the Benchcrafted Hi Vise hardware to make the version with the screw clamp like you see here. So there's three ways you can configure the Hi Vise. The first is with the bench top batten, and this is so you can attach it to your bench with clamps. There's also a cleat so you can install it in a vise, or if you already have a leg chopper ready to install that into, or with the mounting screw, which will attach to just about any bench. That's the version I decided to go with. Now, I've got the Hi Vise kit itself here with the scissor hardware, the screw, the handle, a crubber, and also the Hi Vise mounting screw kit, which is the screw, a very large cast iron hand wheel, and the necessary hardware to install all this. Now, I've got a piece of cherry here that I'm going to use. The final dimensions on this is about 2 1/16 of an inch, I think. The instructions that came with this tell me not to use a piece of wood that's less than 1 7/8 of an inch. So this is about 4 feet long. I said 2 1/16 of an inch thick, and it should be fine for this. I'm going to take this piece of cherry here and I'm going to cut it to 4 1/2 inches wide as per the instructions. Now, the chop and the leg both have a finished length of 17 1/8 inches. For now, I'm going to cut them a little bit long, and that's going to be at 18 inches. With the leg and the chop both cut to length, I've got them clamped to my bench here. I need to start marking out for where the mortises go for the scissor mechanism that goes between the two pieces, the holes for the screws, and also the holes that go through the side that hold all the mechanisms in place in here. So I'm just going to go ahead and mark these out now. This comes with a very good set of drawings that shows you exactly where to mark it out, so there's very little guesswork. With all the holes drilled in the correct places in both the leg and the chop, I'm going to take my router with a router fence, and I'm going to use that to create the mortise that goes down the middle here, and that'll accept the crisscross between the two. Now I need to install these bearing plates, and that's going to go in the bottom one of each of these grooves and be held in with a screw. And that's what the bottom of the scissor mechanism is going to ride into. So these are the two halves for the scissor mechanism. I'm going to make sure that both holes are on the top there. And there's a pivot pin that's included in the hardware kit, and it comes with an E-clip. You just want to put one of these on for now, and just put this on here, like so, and that's going to sit in this recess. Now, there's also these pins right here, and these hold the scissor mechanism inside that. So this first one is pretty easy to get in. not going to put it all the way in yet because I'm going to need to take it apart later. But now I've got to take this and get the other one in. I found it's easiest to lay it on its side like this. Bring this over and get the other one through. And that's how the scissor mechanism works once that's installed inside of there. Now I need to install the hub and the screw into the leg chop itself. So I've got it flipped face up with the recess I cut before facing up. Now I've got some holes in my bench here, which I'm lucky that this fits through. If not, you can just put this on both sides of a vise and go through that way. But I'm going to use this because I have it. So that just sits down there like that. And then these two garters sit in a recess in there. Now it's real important that this is centered in that hole. So what I'm going to do is, keeping this as square as possible, I'm going to move this all the way over to one side like so and make a mark. And then I'm going to move it over to the other side and make a mark. I'm going to go up and down. So now I know where my horizontal and my vertical centers are. Now that I know the spacing here and the spacing here, I can just kind of eyeball this till I know that that's in the center of both those marks, both horizontally and vertically. About like right there. And then I'm going to take my Vicks bit. Again, I'm going to mark where these holes are. Now I can put this back in, center up my holes, and take the included screws and just put them in. All right. Well, I've reassembled what I've done so far. Next, I need to put the handle on. So there's these two leather washers that come with this. And it's just to help avoid this from banging on the end there when it spins around. And I'm just going to attach that like that. Push this through and then do the same thing on the other end. Now there's a small set screw and it's got a little spring-loaded nub in there, and that goes into this end of the hub, and I'm just going to start screwing that in. Now if you notice, there's a groove in the center of this handle, and you want to set this set screw just so it engages that V groove in there positively, but not so much that you have to bang this to get it out. There's kind of a sweet spot you have to find. I think that's just a little bit too tight. I'm going to loosen it up just a little bit. That's about right. I can always adjust that later on. Now with the leg locked in my tail vise on my bench here, I've installed this nut on the back of the screw, and what I want to do is I want to push that up against the leg itself, and back here I want to start turning the handle. I want to find the sweet spot of where this needs to be to where the handle turns the best. And for me, it's about right there. And I'm going to keep turning it until I get it all locked up tight. And then I'll secure that nut with a couple screws. Well, I've cut these dados in the leg as indicated by the plans, and these are for the horizontal arms where the mounting screw will attach up here and also the base will attach up here, so you can put this on a bench or any countertop. I've also cut these 4 pieces of ash. Now these are 2.5 inches wide, 5 3/4 inches long, and those fit into those dados I just made in here before, like that. Well, I've put these 2 pieces of ash in here so you can see what I've got going on. Now these are actually going to hold a block that holds the screw and the nut for the bottom. Now I've got this piece right here. It's the same thickness as this is right here, and it's actually a piece of cherry with 2 pieces of ash on the outside laminated. I did it this way just because it looks cool. Well, this is the hardware that installs on that block. This is a very large heavy-duty cast iron hand wheel, an Acme threaded rod, and a clamping pad. Now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, I'm going to put this in here like that, and there's a pin that goes through the wheel into the rod and locks it in. Now that goes in here, and then the clamping pad goes on the end of that. I think you can see how this is going to work. Once I attach these arms here to this and move this in, it's just going to clamp it into place. Well, it's the next morning. I took everything out of the clamps. I took a plane and some sandpaper and cleaned up all the surfaces. And I'm going to apply a finish, just a very simple wiping varnish finish. And I'll let it sit overnight, and then I'll reinstall the hardware tomorrow. Well, it's completely dry now. I've reassembled everything. I've attached to my bench using the hand wheel. I've also attached these crubbers on the inside of the jaws to line it. And I'll tell you what, this thing works really smooth. Just one finger there. I can put a piece in there, give it a quarter turn, and this isn't going anywhere. Very nice. Now the plans for building the wooden components for the vise hardware are really just a starting point. They can be easily modified in style and dimensions to custom tailor fit for you when building your own high vise. In addition, the high vise can be considered a scaled down version of the Benchcrafted classic leg vise, and it is suitable for installing as a small front leg vise for your workbench if you wish. Of course, its initial design concept is as an auxiliary clamp-on vise to raise up your work to a suitable height so you won't have to hunch over. So if you're bending and hunching over at your workbench when doing your handwork and it's causing you a lot of grief, this vise will elevate your work to a much more enjoyable working height. I'm really happy with the way my Benchcrafted Hi Vise came out. This is going to be a welcome addition to my shop for years to come. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.